Cyrus Colter was inducted into the Chicago Literary Hall of Fame in 2011 as part of just our second class. Colter first began writing as a weekend hobby at age 50. His stories have been published in university quarterlies or small, high-quality magazines and journals. The Lookout first appeared in the University of Kansas City Review in 1961, and that story became part of the collection The Beach Umbrella, which won the first Iowa School of Letters Award for short fiction and was published by the University of Iowa Press in 1970. Eric Charles May is an associate professor in the fiction writing program at Columbia College Chicago. He's going to tell us a little bit more about Cyrus Colter. Eric is a Chicago native. He's the president of the Guild Literary Complex, a former Metro section reporter for the Washington Post. He's also a past recipient of the Chicago Public Library's Foundation's 21st Century Award. His 2014 novel, Bedrock Faith, was one of Booklist's top 10 first novels of 2014, as well as one of Roxane Gay's top 10 novels, and the Chicago Reader's 10 favorite books of that year. It was also named a notable African-American title by Publishers Weekly. The novel is set in a proud, established African-American community on the far south side of Chicago, whose peace and stability are threatened when Stewpot Reeves returns from prison. I mentioned a little bit about the summary because it's a really extraordinary novel. And I know it's probably hard for Eric to believe that it's coming up on its, what, 8-year anniversary or 7 at least?
Yeah, 7.
But it is certainly, like so much great literature, it is as timely and relevant today as before. So I just want to point you in the direction of Eric's novel because I think we should all do ourselves the favor of reading it. And now, Eric May.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome. If he had never become one of Chicago's finest writers by the late 1950s, Cyrus Colter's life would still have been one that most people would have called successful, especially considering the numerous limitations white racism put on the lives of African Americans of his era. By then, nearing 50 years old, the tall, bespectacled, mustachioed Colter was a lawyer and a graduate of Ohio State and the Chicago Kent College of Law, a former Army combat veteran of World War II, artillery officer, who was on his second 5-year term as a member of the Illinois Commerce Commission. And last but not least, happily married to his beloved wife, Imogene, who he had wed in 1943, the year before he was shipped overseas. However, Colter had always had an artistic aspect to his personality. He loved classical music and gospel. And while a student at Ohio State, he had been introduced to Russian literature and became a big fan of the usual 19th century Russian suspects, Dostoevsky, Gogol, Pushkin, Tolstoy, and Turgenev. In a radio interview with Studs Terkel in 1988, Colter said what particularly attracted him about Russian fiction was how the literature so often involved all aspects of Russian society, and that he felt that much of the fiction that was being published by Black authors at the time, we're talking the 1940s and 50s, dealt with only a certain segment of Black American life. Without his saying so, it was clear that Colter meant the impoverished segment. And he said he wondered why there couldn't be a Black American fiction that covered the whole range of Black society. In the Terkel interview, Colter went on to say that by the late 1950s, the golfing group he had played with for years broke up, looking for something else to occupy his non-work time. And with the strong encouragement of his wife, he began writing fictional vignettes, which he eventually elaborated into short stories, with Imogene as his first reader and critic, an artistic partnership that would last until her death in 1984. Colter was also a big reader of Melville, Joyce, and Faulkner, and set out to write, a la Joyce, with the story collection Dubliners, portrayals of middle-class South Side African Americans. In 1960, the same year that 52-year-old Richard Wright died, Colter had his first publication in, of all places, Ireland, in a journal called Threshold. Over the next decade, he continued on at the ICC. His stories appeared in such literary journals as Chicago Review, New Letters, and Prairie Schooner. In 1970, at the age of 60, Colter's first book-length publication, the short story collection, The Beach Umbrella, was published to positive reviews. Just as importantly, that year, Colter was named the first recipient of the Iowa School of Letters Award for Short Fiction. Kurt Vonnegut was one of the two judges. Tonight's theatrical adaptation of the story, The Lookout, is from that collection. Over the next 23 years, Colter would publish 6 additional books, 5 novels, and another short story collection, an impressive output for any writer, regardless of age. The national critical reception of his novels were mixed. However, Colter was not swayed by responses that his novels were too avant-garde or that he wasn't Black radical enough, and he just kept writing the novels he wanted to write. The River Enos, The Hippodrome, Night Studies, Chocolate Soldier, and City of Light, which is not to say Colter wasn't recognized by the literary community that knew him best. He was a recipient of numerous local recognitions that included the Midland Authors Award, the Carl Sandburg Award, the Tri-Quarterly Award, and inductions into the Literary Hall of Fame for writers of African descent, and of course, the Chicago Literary Hall of Fame. In 1990, his name was engraved along with luminaries such as Saul Bellow, Gwendolyn Brooks, Ernest Hemingway, and Lorraine Hansberry in the frieze of the Illinois State Library in Springfield. Chicago author Sarah Paretsky said, "Colter's humanity and compassion are an inspiration." Critic John Park Sloan in the Sun-Times said that Colter uses the world of everyday reality in a manner beyond journalism or society as an entrance to the soul. And the poet and Northwestern University scholar Reginald Gibbons said of Colter, "He wrote books no one else could have written." And so, get set to be inspired on this soulful theatrical excursion, inspired by a writer like no one else.
Thank you, Eric. That was great. Wild torrents of snow darkened the view ahead of us. As its windshield wipers laboring, the Buick crept down the street into the blizzard. That opening line of Colter's story literally and metaphorically sets the action in motion and establishes a mood and setting that make for a riveting study of a rich character. In the play we are about to see, the off-screen stage directions are critical for our ability to follow the monologue, and we're lucky to have the incredible Thomasina Clarke to take on that role. Thomasina Clarke has been performing theater since the first grade. So first grade, Thomasina gets cast as a sheep in Little Bo Peep. And she stands in the wings, she recites the lines of every character, and then through a little twist of fate, the lead needs to be replaced, and Thomasina goes on and takes the spotlight. And so she's had an incredible career, really talented, extraordinary actress. We're lucky to have her doing this role tonight. She graduated from Xavier University with a BA in theater arts and went on to perform with several St. Louis companies, including Unity Theater Ensemble, Metro Theater Circus, which is now called Metro Theater Company, Upstream Theater Company, Hot City, and Shakespeare Festival St. Louis. She also established her own improv troupe in New Orleans and is a 2-time Kevin Kline Best Supporting Actress nominee. This September, she will be directing Shakespeare Festival St. Louis's Shakespeare in the Streets production DeVille. The young woman inside leaned forward over the steering wheel, trying to see out through the foggy glass. That second Colter line introduces us to the star of this story and tonight's adaptation. That woman is a character named Mildred, and Mardra Thomas is our Mildred tonight. She has previously produced, directed, and portrayed leads in Sandra Seaton's The Chicago Trilogy at Atlanta's Black Theater Festival, and also was part of the cast on the Chicago Literary Hall of Fame, helped stage a reading of the 3-1 acts as part of the Evanston Literary Festival a few years back. That is when I first met Mardra, and she didn't play Mildred that night, but she, her talent and her charm and her skills were on display then, and I was delighted to meet her then, and even more delighted that we were able to come back to this play and to do it, in a really special way. So now without any further delays, we've got close to 80 people here, so I think we've got what we're going to get. And so now we will start the lookout. And
is like a play, and you're the leading man. Lights down, curtain up. At center stage I stand. Rehearsed my part, said my lines. Now what more could I do? I'm on the stage all alone. I have given you your cue, but in the end you don't come through. And the lights fade to blue. They fade to blue.
The Lookout, a one-act play by Sandra Seaton. Time, Saturday afternoon, winter, late 60s. Setting, Woodlawn Street, a wide residential street on Chicago's South Side. It's snowing heavily. In this neighborhood of towering mansions, the houses are large and well back from the street. Today, they look remote and ghostly in the white swirl. We see a few cars drive by a house with a big iron gate, then move on. A Buick, its windshield wipers laboring, creeps down the street in the heavy snow. The woman inside leans forward over the steering wheel, trying to see out through the foggy glass. It's Mildred, an African-American woman with a chic haircut. She's wearing a blue winter coat and gloves, and she alternately checks her watch, then takes a puff from a cigarette.
That's right. Turn left, circle the block. If I'm lucky, I'll find a good spot. Oh, there.
She eases her car into the well-chosen spot. She isn't parked directly in front of Laura's house, but down the street a bit.
Perfect. Not right across, down the street a little. From the biggest house on Woodlawn.
Mildred glances at her watch and feels in her purse for a cigarette. Her serious turn of mind and self-possession blend rather naturally with her recent moodiness, and with her cool good looks, creates a curiously sensual amalgam.
1:45. They'll start getting here about 2. I had to come today. Wes and the boys, they'll find something to do. Some Saturday afternoon diversion. Television or the movies or something. I didn't say a word to him. Nothing. Bye-bye, Wes. No, I'm not going shopping or over to Mama's just like all the other Saturdays. He didn't even ask. The boys wondered where I was going, but not Wes. No, he didn't even ask. I didn't have to say, Wes, I'm not going over to Mama's, not this time. I'm going to Laura Font's. You know Laura, Herbie's wife. He's a doctor. And Laura, A few years ago, she moved into this big house on Woodlawn, and now she's having the party of the season. Agreeable, easygoing Wes. Oh, how I wish you weren't. Mildred, you're in the ideal spot. They'll never see you here. This swirling snow, it's definitely help. Helps to see without being seen.
She mashes the red-hot dash lighter against the cigarette end, blows a jet of pearl gray smoke against the windshield, and settles back to wait. As she sits smoking, she realizes how tense and uneasy she is.
You think I'm being foolish, don't you? Even the boys couldn't understand. Mom, it's practically a blizzard. Where you going in all this snow? Foolish? You're right. One of those catty women going into Laura Font's bridge luncheon could see me and recognize me. I could care less. I've got my own life to live. Of course, to be caught here now.
She raises her hand as if to start the ignition.
I could leave, turn right around and head back home. Pure accident. That's what it was. Sheer coincidence. There I was on the phone to Audrey. Must have been about 9 o'clock this morning, right after Mama called. Millie, rise and shine. Mama wants to go shopping again. Heard about a vacuum cleaner sale at Sears. All I wanted was a little peace and quiet. So Audrey was going on and on about her weight and how difficult it was to find something flattering to wear. And then she let it slip. Backtracking. I have to go, Mildred. Somewhere special? Not really. I just have to get ready. Then this long silence, and she was out with it. Laura Font's having a bridge luncheon for Janice. Janice? My best friend from college? My old roommate? I can hear Mama now. Millie, you taking the IC home this weekend? You know, the IC, the Illinois Central, the train that runs from Champaign to Chicago. Now, Millie, you know there's always room for Janice. Just like part of the family. Sheer coincidence. That's what it was. And now, after spending the whole morning mustering the courage to drive all the way over here, I have to see who's going in and what they're wearing. Mama would have a fit if she knew I was out here dressed like this. I'll sit here and I'll count the minks, the silks, the I. Miller pumps, or at least until Janice arrives. No one could possibly see me through this snow. But if they did, they'd wonder, why isn't she coming in? And after a while, when I don't open my car door and march proudly up to the house, they'd know I wasn't invited. I have to take that chance. Ooh. Laura's huge fireplace, it'll be blazing today for all of those vain, lucky women. That's right, vain. All the strain they put on their husbands just so they can outdo each other. All for the trappings of success. Lucky too, the husbands. Despite it all, somehow they born up physically. It's luck, you know. You can never tell beforehand whether a man has it or not. When Wes finished Illinois, everyone said he was going places. Said the same thing later on when we were married. And for the first few years, he had grown. He was ambitious for big things. Then something happened. The plateau. He stopped. And now, after 15 years, he has what he thinks is a good job with Supreme Life, the exact same insurance company he started out with. He's content to go to football games in the fall, have a few cronies over for poker in front of his tidy little bar. Now he's even started watching the late movies on TV. He's left the boys, all of their supervision to me. You know, sometimes I've got 3 boys on my hands instead of 2. A delivery truck.
A small delivery truck with large letters pulls up from the other direction and stops in front of Laura's.
Can't read the name on the side. He's climbing out with a package. That's it. Hold it with both hands. Ooh, careful, boy, you'll slip in the snow. That's it. Easy, easy. Let me see the side of that box. Oh, Bristol pastries. It must be the cake. Bristol. My dad went to work for Bristol straight out of college. Alabama A&M. Stayed there his whole life. Surprise, surprise, Laura Abigail Font. You surprised everybody. You took little Herbie with his kinky red hair and blue eyes. Goodness, it's true, he was very bright in school, but you held him up by the collar like this, and you urged him to the top. Now look at him, a big deal doctor with his own clinic. And Laura, look how far you're set back from the curve. A Mercedes-Benz car, even house servants. I hear your waiters have mauve jackets. For a girl whose father delivered the mail, you've done pretty well indeed. At Illinois, you weren't nearly as good looking as I was. And you never went out with the popular guys I knew. Humble, that's right. That's what you were. And I was proud of Wes. So slender and handsome then. I couldn't hide it, could I? Crazy about Wes and so jealous. We were so young. We could never have imagined, not in our wildest dreams, that it would turn out this way. It's all so incredibly unbelievable. Is that a Ford station wagon? I can tell you right now, it won't be stopping here. It's slowing down. Who's that mousy looking woman in that scanty broadtail jacket getting out of? I don't believe it. A Ford. Hilda Simpson in a broad-tailed jacket. Why, she's married to a pharmacist. Even Wes makes more money than Ted Simpson. But Hilda's father was a classics professor at Morehouse. That makes all the difference. The snow's coming down more slowly now and in big spinning flakes. Oh, I can't see a thing. I better start this motor for a minute and get the wipers to clear this windshield. Two boys trudging along in the snow. The one dragging the sled, he's about the age of one of my boys. My boys, I hope they turn out to be strong Black men. The woman should never be stronger than the man.
Mildred exhales a cloud of smoke. She's straining to see who's driving up. A Lincoln Continental pulls up slowly from behind and parks just ahead of her. She tenses. Two women get out from different sides of the car, close the doors, and, talking, start across the street toward Laura's big iron gate.
Whoopee! Here comes Sadie Tate and her gang, the vocal members of the NAACP. No dark brown women in this posse, riding into town to wipe out discrimination. The lightest of light skins. Sadie Tate, gatekeeper, worthy originator of the brown bag test. All those Black PhDs laid off from the Chicago post office. Worried about them sneaking in, Sadie? You're something else. You know that? Something else. I bet you got all the exits and the entrances covered too. I got no business here. I should go. Not today. There's nowhere else to go except shopping with Mama. Nowhere. Poor uncomprehending Mama who thinks Millie is doing simply grand. Wesley is so wonderful to her. They got everything. An automatic dishwasher and a stereo. Goodness, I would have thought I was a queen, but Millie thinks nothing of it. It's freezing cold out here. This would have been much easier in the summer. Or maybe not. Patience. Patience, Millie. Mama always says when you're waiting for something important, you have to have a little patience.
She leans forward and glances at her face in the rearview mirror, and then sits back, absently pulling at a ravel in her glove.
If I leave now, I'll miss Janice. Lucky Janice, home from New York, just to be feted by the elite. Is this the same girl I grew up with? The one who stayed whole weekends at my house, double dated, went out with the Kappas and the Alphas and the Qs. The woman roomed with me my junior year and my senior year in Illinois. But last year when she came to town, at least she phoned. How callous can you get? But her husband is a successful publisher. And husbands are the key to everything. It's 2:00. By now, this street should be packed with cars. Better hurry up, ladies. The appetizers will be all gone. Here they come. 2 brand new Cadillacs inching along just so I can get a good look. Look at all that silk and mink. The way they're slamming those car doors, those fancy cars, well, repairs don't matter to them. Not to this bunch. Stay out of my space. You'd think they'd know how to parallel park.
Mildred, jittery, leans forward and watches. She lights another cigarette and tries to relax by tilting her head back and blowing the smoke up against the ceiling. In a panic, Mildred looks behind her, in front of her, and side to side. Oh, now they're showing up, pulling in from every direction.
CPT. Mama calls it Hungarian time. Finally. Hunting for space, huh? Me, I was brought up to be early, but I was the first one here.
A car eases up from behind and parks across the street from her before she knows it. She falls back, terrified.
Here comes a big beige Imperial, stopping right across from me. Now, I've seen everything. 3 women in the front seat and a man wearing a chauffeur's cap sitting in the back. Aren't we clever? He's getting out and opening the front door. Nan Hawthorne, well-off snob of snobs, waiting for Betty Bond, the driver, to be helped out too. Who's that with her? The long legs. No galoshes for this one. Grand exit. 1 high heel, and then the next. Black pattern sinking deep in the snow. It's Janice, laughing as she leans on the chauffeur. Now she's stooping over and brushing a fluff of snow from her ankle. They're all standing there talking and laughing and waiting for the chauffeur to pull off and let them come across the street. She's looking my way. Oh, good, she didn't see me. Too busy with her closest friends. Janice, proud, tall, in a soft, rippling, full-length mink. I've never known her to look so patrician before. Her legs are still too skinny. But she's dressed so tastefully. She looks terribly happy. I've tried so hard to make something out of myself. No fair-minded person would deny that. But here I sit in this snowy lookout, like a member of the FBI. It's insane. It's so futile. If only I hadn't found out about Janice being in town. We were so close. Once. So long, world. Soon as I finish the cigarette, I'm heading down 55th Street to the Wayside Liquor Store. I'll pick up a 5th of 100 proof bourbon, and me and Mama can make some good, strong Manhattans. Mama start blubbering about my aimless brother Charlie and how he can never find a decent job. But it's better than going home. I'll have a half dozen Manhattans if I need to. When I leave, I'll be on automatic pilot. Stop for the red light and then start up again. It stopped snowing. I've always loved the snow. Dreams have a better chance of coming true in the snow. Sometimes I go out walking alone in the falling snow and I feel this urge to get caught up in it. Dizzy, twirling, completely out of my head with crazy swirling madness. A man's crossing the street. He's peering into all of the cars. Someone forgot the hostess's gift. He has to find it. He's wearing a mauve jacket, scarf doubled around his neck. He must be one of the servants. Are those ice tongs sticking out of his pocket? No, he's headed my direction. He's got no business walking this way. Will you please stop knocking on my window? There must be a mistake. This is a public street. I've got the right to park anywhere I want. He's got a piece of paper in his hand. But thank you. That's fine. It's from Laura Font, hostess of hostesses. Mildred, you must be getting cold out there. Please do come in. Janice would love to see you. Thank you. Please tell Mrs. Font I am on my way to another engagement.
The lights slowly dim, then fade out.
I'm sitting here, I fade to blue. What must I do but fade to blue? I fade to blue, slowly fade to blue. To blue,
Thank you. If we had a live audience here, you would hear the thunderous applause. It was a wonderful performance, Mardra, and it's a beautiful play. Sandra, you did a great job. I'm going to introduce Mardra in full here, and Sandra, and then I'm going to lead off with a question or two, but we will invite the audience to ask them a few questions. Mardra was nominated for Chicago's 2018 Best Leading Actress Lena Horne Award for her portrayal of Billie Holiday in the Fleetwood Jourdain's production of Lady Day at Emerson's Bar and Grill. Her most recent theater performances are Miss Martha in the Beverly Center's Front Porch Society and Alice in Daydream, the Life of Billy Strayhorn at the Kennedy Center. Mardra has studied under the direction of artistic director Ralph Green at the Katherine Dunham Center for the Arts at Southern Illinois University in East St. Louis. She has previously played Mother Shaw in Crowns, Bessie and Sadie Delaney and Having Our Say, Lady in Green for Colored Girls, Power Woman in Menopause the Musical, and lots of other credits. Her jazz roots are planted in the St. Louis area, where early in her career she performed for the opening of Dizzy Gillespie's 70th birthday concert. Shortly thereafter, she found herself trading scat solos with world-class trumpeter Clark Terry. She plays concert halls, jazz festivals, and premier clubs around the country, and her recordings include her latest, Matters of the Heart, with husband and pianist Reggie Thomas. Go to her website at www.mrtjazz.com to find that and other things. Sandra Seaton, I met her. Stuart Dybeck called me back in 2011 when we were about to induct Cyrus Colter into the Chicago Literary Hall of Fame, and he said, "Don, I don't know, what you got going yet for the induction ceremony, but Sandra is a really great playwright, and she's been working on these plays based on Cyrus Colter." It was unfortunately too late in the process then to include Sandra, but we did finally meet, and I got to know her work. I've seen it in a number of places up in East Lansing and in Chicago and all over. And her trilogy is both just a wonderful series of plays and also very important. One of the reasons why I find that somebody like Cyrus Colter is an important nominee and inductee into the Chicago Literary Hall of Fame is that for whatever reasons these happen, and they're not always sensible, some writers sort of get passed on to future generations and some do not. And Cyrus Colter, if you ask the most contemporary generation, they probably don't know of Cyrus Colter. So when Sandra took it upon herself to bring his stories to the stage, I think she is doing us all a huge service by bringing us back to Colter, who I thought was one of Chicago's very finest writers and a really important figure in our cultural community. As well as being a playwright, Sandra is a librettist. She grew up on the west side of Chicago, went to Penn Elementary School and Farragut High School. Her plays have been performed throughout the country, and her libretto for the opera From the Diary of Sally Hemings, with music by Pulitzer Prize-winning Michigan composer William Bolcom, has been performed at Carnegie Hall and the Kennedy Center. The Bridge Party, the first of Sandra Seaton's 14 plays, dramatizes the ways in which a group of Black women deal with racism of their era while still maintaining their dignity and self-worth. And of course, this is a theme that we see throughout all of Sandra's work. She's dealing in important ways with the African-American community. Ruby Dee starred in that 2008 performance. In The Will, Seaton's play about a Black family during Reconstruction. The sons return from service in the Union Army to find that victory at home is more elusive than victory on the battlefield. She's also written Music History, or a play about Greeks, and SNCC in 1963. King, a reflection on the life of Dr. Martin Luther King, with spirituals sung by Metropolitan Opera tenor George Shirley. And then, of course, the Chicago Trilogy, which we've already talked about. January 2020, the opera Night Trip is Sandra's collaboration with composer Carlos Simon. It's about a young woman from Chicago journeying to Tennessee to visit her relatives. That premiered at the Kennedy Center with a 2021 performance at Portland Opera. October 2020, Sandra, her performance piece about Henrietta Lacks, Call Me By My Name, starred Congo Square's Tracy Bonner. 2021, Um, Sandra's play with music about Mary Cardwell Dawson will premiere at Glimmer Glass Festival in New York. And then she's got a premiere of a short piece at LA Opera in summer 2021. She's incredibly busy always, and she has been for decades, but she's been more busy in these last, year or year and a half, I think probably than in her whole life. And her choral work about Tulsa Massacre with its premiere at the Dallas's Turtle Creek Choral in 2022 will tour in July with a performance at Carnegie Hall. So you can find out much more at www.sandraseaton.com. So Sandra, Mardra, I am going to ask you a few questions to start us off. Sandra, make sure you unmute yourself now. But then, I want the audience to have a chance to ask a few questions. And so I'll start you guys off and then we'll go from there. I had a question for you, Sandra. It's the Chicago Literary Hall of Fame. And so, of course, my interests and the interests of our whole organization are in Chicago, in literature of Chicago. Of course, from your bio, we know you're from the West Side. From your work, we know that you explored Chicago a great deal. And it's not just Chicago as a backdrop, but it's a setting, and it's often a setting that is at a very particular historical moment. And so tell me a little bit more about Chicago and how important it is to you individually and in your art.
Oh my goodness, thank you so much, Don. And first of all, I'd like to thank Mardra for a wonderful performance. I couldn't have asked for anything any better. Thank you so much for that. And Don, thank you for the introduction. Well, growing up in Chicago, going to elementary school, we called it grammar school, on the west side of Chicago, I saw the changes from my neighborhood, which is originally Black and Jewish. By the time I graduated from elementary school and went to high school, it was a predominantly Black area. Chicago being segregated, I knew that and this figures in my work, that the Ogden Avenue, that dividing line on the one side, Polish, Bohemian, Czech, on the other side, African American. But there was still an incredible richness in culture, and I found that at my high school. And Chicago to me meant going to the grocery store to get milk and stopping and seeing all the with the open door and the blues being played in the middle of the afternoon. No cover charge. I would stand in the doorway and listen, take a half hour, 40 minutes to go to the store, much to my mother's dismay. And I would go downtown and take viola lessons at the Chicago Conservatory. And I learned early on, in spite of the racism, that I was going to go wherever I wanted to go. And if it meant sitting at the Art Institute all day, or if it meant going to the museums and going by myself, that's what I would do. I wasn't going to wait for somebody to tell me it was okay. So I think, the world of Cyrus Colter and the way he bravely explores the African American experience, it just felt very, very good to me. And, of course, I knew so many aspects of Chicago. I knew about it from social resistance. I knew about it from demonstrations. I knew about Fred Hampton and the Panthers from that hit really close to home. And of course, when I went to Illinois and I told people I was from the West Side, they would go, "Oh my God, where's my purse or where's my wallet? You know, oh, she's from the west side of Chicago. And, you know, half joking, but half thinking about this tremendous class structure that is, and probably still is, Chicago. And this is always figured in my work. So when I wrote about Greeks and SNCC in the 60s, I was thinking about all the kids from Chicago who went down to the voter registration drive and were hurt and injured during that time. So this, you know, it's a very complicated world. Don is muted.
Unmute yourself, Don.
You're
There.
muted.
I'm not sure I sound any better, but at least you can hear me. Thank you, Sandra. That was beautiful. I want to ask Mardra a question about Chicago as well, and then I've got a couple of questions from the audience. So we're going to still try to, you know, be around that 8-10 spot. But so Mardra, your allegiance, I know, is divided a little bit between cities, including St. Louis. But Chicago has been very important to what you've done in your career and in your life. So do you find Chicago to be a particularly vibrant city for storytelling?
I do. I truly do. In so many areas of the arts, I find that to be true. But I want to put a little pause right there, and I must thank you, Sandra, for this wonderful work and for allowing me to wrap my life around your work. I also want to say this, that all of these arts save people. I met Sandra Seaton when she was she's in East Lansing, and I lived there for a few years. And it was connecting with her and some of the things that we did there that really kind of saved me, because it was the first time that I had been away from family in a long time. So I really appreciate you for that, Sandra, and every opportunity that you give me to bring your words to life. As far as Chicago is concerned, I feel that Chicago, and for so many, it's like the heartbeat of this nation. That's the way I see it. There's so much going on here, even in the times of COVID. There's so much history here, but it's like a pulsing heartbeat to me. And yes, I love St. Louis. That's where I was born. Didn't live there all my life, but I love it there primarily because my family was there. But Chicago literally has everything. It really does. And so when I connected with you, Don, and it just started to weave a basket for my life that has been holding me together in the arts. So I appreciate you for allowing me to do this role, perform this role again. I really do.
Yeah, thank you.
I just wanted to add one thing about, thank you, Mardra, about culture, though, just to bring culture in here and and what he brings to the African-American experience. Because I think, you know, Mildred's world, there are so many people who are surprised to know. When I started to write plays about Colter, people were surprised that this world exists. And I was thinking about Tulsa today and that world, and how, you know, in a matter of days it was gone. And one of the things about African Americans of that era, and one thing they learned, was just to you know, it's behind the veil. In other words, you could be penalized for showing what you had. I think, you know, the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, African Americans didn't necessarily want to show what they were about, the middle class. And so that veil, you know, we see more of it now, we have a vice president who's a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha. We're showing a lot more of the Black middle class, but there's in the Colter era, people would not have known of the existence of a Mildred, and that was out of a sense of protection. That's what I was going to say. And Colter does bring that out, and I wish more people would read him and would see what it was like to live as an upper middle class African American during that time.
Thank you. And Mardra, where are you tonight? Where you?
I'm just outside of Chicago. I'm in DeKalb, about 60 miles west of Chicago.
Oh, I know.
Close to the heartbeat.
Sure. First question from the audience, Randy Albers, who is the board president of the Chicago Literary Hall of Fame. We're incredibly lucky to have him doing that, and he's done such spectacular work for us, and of course, long time professor at Columbia and the founder of Story Week and so forth. He sent a question through the chat. He says, can Sandra tell us about the process of adapting Cyrus Colter?
Oh my goodness. Well, they say write about what you know, and I just think, you know, a part of that Cyrus Colter world, it felt so familiar to me. My family had gone to Tennessee A&I, they'd gone to Fisk, and I knew these stories of people, of clubs, of just the layers. So that was good. And then, you know, you go from narration to creating a voice. And so what I wanted to do was to create a voice for Mildred. And then to bring in some things that weren't there. You know, she has the asides, you know, Supreme Life, the Greek fraternities, Morehouse. I don't think there weren't the specifics. So what I wanted to do was to add to Mildred's world and to give her a voice. And this was, it was a little different than the voice in the story. If you've read the story, and there are sections that I just created. Maybe there was a line or two about the mother, and I wanted to add to it. It was kind of like going shopping. You know, I wasn't Mildred going shopping, but I went shopping for imagery for Mildred. So it was fun.
Thank you, Sandra. And so this is a comment rather than a question. Jane Gorsey says, half an hour with Mildred and she will be in my heart forever. Her hurt is heartbreaking, but her strength and resolve makes her my hero. Thank you for bringing Mildred into my life. And so from Mildred is Q Ellerson, clap, clap, you were excellent. And other compliments in the chat. Mary Fran says, what a wonderful performance, play and production. Thank you all. And so there's another question. It's a little,
Before that question, may I mention something, please?
Of course.
That I said earlier. You did not see her this evening, but you heard Thomasina Clarke, a wonderful actress and director. And I just want to thank Thomasina. She has been, she's a true friend, and we've done a lot of shows together. And we played Bessie and Sadie Delaney and Terry McMillan's mama. We were related in that show. But for Sandra Seaton's A Chicago Trilogy, Thomasina actually acted in that when we went to the Atlanta Black Theater Festival. And she's my soul sister. She really is a talented woman in so many different ways. And I just want to acknowledge that and say thank you again, Thomasina.
You are very welcome, and I'll get that check to you tomorrow for all of the work.
All right, and then we have a question from
I
the
agree.
brilliant. We have
Thank you, Thomasina.
It was my pleasure, Sandra. I look forward to working with you again at another time. Thank you.
And now we have a question from the brilliant novelist, playwright, and poet, Sandra Jackson Opoku, who wants to know, what are some of the strengths and challenges of virtual performance?
Well, you kind of do what you've got to do. On this particular evening, one of the challenges was these cigarettes, okay? Trying to, because it was a part of her. It was a part of Mildred, her smoking and her nervousness. But we've been doing the virtual things for a while, and, we're just all trying to adapt. I also want to say thank you to my dear friend and neighbor, Amarna Niebergall DeRosa, because she was the photographer. Some people had commented on the photos and what have you. And she was the person who pulled all of that together and found the car. And what some of the challenges are that you have to get some photographs and some things that will take you to that space. And so that was what I was trying to do in putting this together. I wanted to give people the feel of moving into the 60s. And, it's about how Mildred interacts and what the character says. But I'm hoping that people were able to come into that world. So it starts with having all of those little supplemental things, from the photos to the cigarettes and I'm like, Lord, I hope I don't burn down my house, all of this different things. But it's possible. People have been doing it. We've been doing this for a while, and I think that we are getting better. I think we're all learning a lot more about broadcasting from our homes and from the laptops and the iPads and what have you. We're all getting so much more tech savvy, I would say.
Well, the way you chose for
that question,
the way you taught your posing and the different, the way you were trying to work with the camera angles too, though, huh?
Well, yeah, all of that is involved in it. It's like getting the photo and trying to give the illusion of being in that car. And it's a kind of a trial and error thing. It's not like you're on a stage, like you normally would be, and you've got a set. It's like you just got to build little things around you to try to get to that place. I mean, even, reaching out to the waiter to get that note and things of that nature. It's just trying to put it all together and try things. And of course, my tech person, my husband, is not here tonight. He's performing down at Winters in Chicago. But normally, it's great if you have someone to help you to bring in your props and things of that nature. But it's possible. And so it makes me feel good for people to say that they enjoyed it. But the thing is, don't give up. Just keep trying and test it and go for it.
Yeah, well, you really embodied Mildred. You really, I felt you. I found you so believable, and I'm sure there were people in the audience that could see, oh, that's my aunt, or I know that's my cousin. I remember her.
I think the one thing with Mildred that I relate to and that really touches my heart the most is, there are many layers there. And this is not about the tech, but this is about the character. It touches my heart when people feel left out. And friendships, we know, change over time. Over the years, they can change. There's some people you're friends with forever, but sometimes things change.
Mhm.
We know that Mildred had her issues about being successful and her husband. You know, as I was talking about Wes, I thought to myself, honey, you're dissatisfied about a lot of stuff. And,
Mhm.
you know, there are many deep layers to her dissatisfaction. So it's trying to delve into that frustration and that hurt. But if you have a friend from college or someone that you've been friends with for many, many, many years, and then you disconnect or you are ignored or you're left out, it's kind of horrible. And we know about the sorority and the fraternity life. Those are bonds. Those are serious bonds that are supposed to move on into your business relationships, you know, your families, the whole thing. And then to be dismissed and ignored, that hurts. And many people know what it's like to be hurt. And so that's what I was trying to connect on that level of Mildred's character.
Well, you know, I think we can all identify with being left out or going to the water cooler and hearing about a party we weren't invited to. That's
Yeah.
just the human experience.
It is. It really is.
And you know, that was important to me, you know. So I did talk about, you know, it was about race and about behind the veil, but it's also about that experience that so many of us share and that feeling. And then there's that mystery, that sense of mystery, because on one level, you know, we know at some point we're not friends anymore with a person, but we're never sure why. It's never clear to us what happened. And it's something that we will never know. It's not something that was said, just somehow people move apart. And that might be part of it with Janice and Mildred, you know. There's something there that's that mystery.
It's heartbreaking to me, though. It really is.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Well, I have promised that we would try to be around 8:10, and it's almost 8:20 now. So I'm going to leave us with one comment and a few thank yous. Of course, the biggest thank yous to the two women, the two incredible women on the screen right now, Mardra and Sandra, who you know, did a wonderful job tonight. And I think the last comment I'm going to read to you is from Frank P. Johnson. A wonderful story, so soulfully performed, the best Zoom theatrical performance I have seen. So that'll make us feel good going to bed tonight, won't it?
Absolutely.
I want to thank again, just to reiterate, because you know, these things are, you know, some of what Sandra and Mardra have been talking about. You know, it's, you know, we've been trying for over the last year to adapt to this, but, you know, having a little community that, you know, partners with us and helps us and pitches in, you know, and takes ownership, helps us to do things. And maybe, you know, maybe we make a few mistakes, but then next time it'll be better. And I thought this production was certainly like that. We, you know, again, I want to reiterate and thank again the Chicago Writers Association, the Guild Literary Complex, and the Cliff Dwellers. So please support those three groups. Go to their website. You'll find out that they're active, you know, throughout the community. And Sandra, you want to say something?
I'd also like to thank Allison Dobbins, who came in
It's right here
at the zero hour and helped us so much with this video. And she lent us Michigan State University's webinar, and also Mr. Smith. Was that Don Smith?
Daniel Smith.
Daniel Smith
Dr.
from
Dan
Michigan
Smith.
State, who came in and helped with the webinar. I'd like to also thank Rich Kono, the production director. Yeah, we couldn't have done it without you all. And thank you, thank you, thank you. You'll get your award someday, but right now you're getting many, many thanks.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
So Sandra, you know, went ahead and read the rest of my thing without even seeing it. So we've covered everybody except for one more person that I wanted to include. Thomasina Clarke, both Sandra and Mardra mentioned. but Kelsey Dean, who is on our associate board at the Chicago Literary Hall of Fame, and she always is behind the scenes helping out. So thank you to Kelsey. Thank you to everybody. And thank you for those who donated for tonight's event. Super helpful. And we will try to do our best to be good caretakers of the money that you've sent us. Good night, everybody. Thank you for coming, and we hope to see you again soon. And maybe the next time we see you, maybe it'll even be in person.
Sounds
Thank-
wonderful.
Thank you again, everybody, and
Thank
good night.
you. Thank you, Don.
Thank you.
Night all.
Yeah. Thanks to
You got it.
Don.
Thank you, Eric. Oh, and Eric too. We didn't thank Eric.
Eric,
Did we thank Don? We should thank Don too. Thank Don.
thank you, Don.
Thank you, Don.
Yep.
Hey, how about that?
You know, I
And
forgot about
Eric.
Eric because he faded to black there. He's
I had the light off.
well,
Hi,
Thank you,
Rita.
everybody.
Rita, thank you, Randall. Thank you, Rita.
yeah,
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. Terrific job, everybody.